Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, time!
3 on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game!
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Float game for the win! Ayler's gone. Goodbye. Touchdown, Indy. Woo! IU. America. They got a football team now.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
All right, now let's start again. Hey, welcome aboard, everybody. Appreciate you being with us on this Monday. Glad to have you along, no matter where or how you're listening, as we get caught up on the weekend's sports action. But of course, nothing bigger than the Pacers, as they are now heading to the NBA Finals. I hope everyone is doing well and having a good day. I noticed that as I'm viewing things, that everything looks backwards in my on my view, but hopefully you're not hearing me backwards. That wouldn't be much fun. But looking forward to Greg Rakestraw joining us here in a little bit, and also Dustin Dopirak on the show today, and Zach Browning will get you caught up with everything that is happening on football with IU and everything else. As it's going to be a fun sports season that's going to just keep on going, especially now with the Pacers in the NBA Finals. This thing starts Thursday, so that will take a couple of weeks. We'll be into mid-June. The basketball players have all arrived on campus as of now, so they are getting ready for workouts. They're probably already have started those, and lots going on as it will continue to happen now. We'll get to mid-June by the time the finals are over. Then we're a month away from the Big Ten football media days out in Las Vegas, which happens in July, of course. Then in August, you'll have football fall camp going on, of course, but also the basketball trip to Puerto Rico, and boom, it doesn't stop. So hang on, people. It's it has been, and that's what happens when you have good programs like Indiana is starting to develop. The football program, boom, is there right now, and hopefully it stays there. And there's odds are that it will under Coach Cignetti's direction, as good as he has appeared to run things. Basketball, I think that's going to be headed in the right direction. I really do. I'm not saying that they're going to go out and start winning national titles, but I'm not saying that they're not going to get to that point sooner rather than later, because Derek DeVries seems like somebody who is going to put his all into what he's doing, and he has a great staff to do it and great resources and all of that. So looking forward to that. Greg Rakestraw going ahead, jumping on with us now. Greg, how are you, my friend?
Good morning.
How's your weekend?
Weekend was busy, which is kind of a mixture and a variety of things, but able to check out at least a good chunk of a Pacers game that was rather historic on Saturday night.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest and say my weekend was not busy. I enjoyed the hell, and I'm not saying this to rub it into you because you're always busy, but wow, it seemed like it was just the first weekend that I knew ahead of time I didn't have to do anything. And I'm like, I'm going to enjoy the hell out of it. But yeah, not having to do anything, because I was just talking about right before you joined us how it has not stopped yet. Whether it's the Pacers or the event at Huber's or whatever, the Indy 500, we've just had things just continue after the college seasons have gone on. Well, now we've got All-Stars coming up. The players have arrived at on the IU campus for basketball, which they'll and elsewhere next month. Big Ten Media Days out in Las Vegas. It doesn't stop, man. It just keeps on rolling, but that's okay. That's better than the alternative.
Correct. From a the Sports Talk Radio calendar, you would get to June and July, and you would hope to have, at least relevant topics into June, knowing that once you got to, like, say, the end of June, you'd have the NBA draft and NBA free agency. You'd have a couple of down weeks, then Colts training camp starts, and I always would jokingly refer to the beginning of Colts training camp as the start of the sports fiscal year. So that you kind of knew what the next several months were going to be like once you got to that point. Well, now that the Indiana Pacers are playing until Father's Day at the earliest, and potentially playing a week beyond that, there will not be a summer, so to speak, from an Indianapolis sports topic conversation. This will blend right from the NBA Finals all the way into Colts training camp. So here we go.
No, and that's awesome, to be honest with you. I mean, it's that keeps us busy, which is good on one hand. On the other, I'd sure like a break, but that's okay. It's fun, so it could be digging ditches and doing worse things. But it's great to have that, because that means things are going well around you. And whether it's the Pacers or the Colts or Indiana or whomever, it's just fun to have positive sports teams happening where you are.
And to put it in perspective, and I did this math a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to try to do it while I'm on the air with you. Obviously, that next step from conference finals to NBA finals, it's tough for every team. It's been very tough for the Pacers. It's a Pacers organization that I want to say since 1994 had made the Eastern Conference Finals 10 times. There's not many in the East or West that have been there more often than the Indiana Pacers. But obviously, this is just NBA Finals number 2. And so being able to play till about Memorial Day, it's, I wouldn't say expected, but it's common. It's happened. For this to be the first finals in 25 years, that kind of is attention grabbing. Makes you sit down and think about it.
Yeah, and it's fun, but it also shows how you don't have to have, quote unquote, what the NBA sees as a superstar on your team. I'm not saying that they don't have superstars in Pascal Siakam or Tyrese Halliburton. They do. They've just been undervalued by other people, their peers, I would say. But after this, it's kind of hard to I'd love to see that poll go out again, that where some NBA players apparently allegedly voted Tyrese Halliburton as the most overrated player in the NBA. I'd like to see that poll go around one more time. As LeBron James pointed out, where are you I forget what he said, but he sent out a tweet like a week ago saying, yeah, where are you people now? Quiet.
Of the 12 guys that played for Team USA in last year's Olympics, Jim, you know how many players are playing in this year's NBA Finals?
One.
It's the guy that wears number 0 for the Indiana Pacers.
That was a good guess.
It's Tyrese Halliburton. Again, the guy that didn't get to play much, the guy that didn't get off the bench a whole lot, but it's him. And, the older I get, the less of a darn, you're welcome, that I tend to give about the perception of others, and especially the perception of others in the national media. I don't care. Just give me the end result. And that's exactly what the Indiana Pacers have done now for 3 consecutive rounds of the NBA playoffs.
Yeah, and what a run. I mean, they've had it where they've won these series, none of which going 7 games, which impressive because of who they're beating. Not Milwaukee per se, but after that, Cleveland, number 1 seed. Hello. You shut them down pretty much. And then New York, I'm not going to say they shut them down, but it didn't go 7 games. So the Pacers are playing very, very good basketball. No one gives them a shot against Oklahoma City. We'll talk about that later. Let's enjoy the now and what they just accomplished, because they were the number 4 seed, man. I remember, Kristen Airy is on with us each week as well. And I remember early in the season talking that they were bouncing down there between 6 and 8. And it's like, ooh, man, they're not doing well. Then all of a sudden they just started sliding up and got, especially starting in January, things changed for that team. It came together, I guess, which sometimes you see that a lot where teams are just not there and all of a sudden, boom, they click. And that's what has happened with the Pacers from January forward.
Well, the issue that the Pacers had to start the season was the injury bug. And namely, it was Andrew Nembhard and Aaron Nesmith. And because those guys play similar positions, obviously one of the elements that got this team to where it's gotten so far is their depth. And clearly that was a key element to the series win against the Knicks. Well, that depth was tested early in the season. And so once this group got healthy, then seemingly it was everything moving forward. So, again, they were a 50-win team, which is an improvement from last year, a slight improvement. But to be honest with you, Jim, I thought I liked their chances against the Bucks. And I thought that's kind of where the run was going to end for this team. I'm like, I don't know if they can beat the Cavaliers. But going into that Cavaliers series, my thought was, hey, the Cavs do not have significantly more playoff experience than the Indiana Pacers. In fact, the Pacers had a little bit more. And to some degree, you could say that about Oklahoma City. Obviously, this is an Oklahoma City team that has been stockpiling draft picks for seemingly a decade. Ever since Kevin Durant left to go to the Warriors about a decade ago, it's been just build and build and build and pick and pick and pick and pick after pick. And, well, now here they are, with the best record in the NBA. And, again, they're going to be the favorites, and that's all right. And again, if you ask me to make a neutral, prediction, I'd probably pick Oklahoma City in this series too. They're really good. But a lot of the same things you would say about the Cavaliers series, you would say about this series. It's not like there is this gargantuan amount of NBA playoff experience that Oklahoma City has that the Indiana Pacers don't. What I do think Oklahoma City has is a slightly better star play, because Donovan Mitchell was really good for the Cavaliers, and obviously Jalen Brunson was really good for the New York Knicks. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a little bit better. But what I don't expect is for the Indiana Pacers to have their doors blown off or be left in the dust by Oklahoma City. I think this is going to be a very competitive series that starts on Thursday.
Absolutely, and I'm looking forward to it all as hopes that the Pacers can do not the impossible, but it would definitely be an upset, and I'm not going to say otherwise. It would be an upset. As you mentioned, Oklahoma City's favored in this, and they should be. They have the better record. They have had the better run. They've got the Player of the Year, but we'll see. That's why they play the games, baby. As I can't remember his name, but the old Arizona State coach. That's why they play the games, and that is because no one would have picked the Pacers to beat New York, and no one would have picked them to beat Cleveland before that, I don't think. Well, very few did. The ESPN guys, what are they, 0-22, I heard? I think I've heard that they are 0-22 in the Pacers series.
I would assume that's in the last two, because I think all 11 would have picked the Cavaliers. And I don't know if that was the case in the Knicks series, because frankly, once the Pacers beat the Cavs, you kind of said, hey, I like their chances against the Knicks. So again, I'm not going to try to cast stones, A, for people have an opinion, and B, when my opinion might have been similar. So again, I would have said the Cavs over the Pacers, I set the Pacers over the Knicks, which is exactly how it played out. And again, let's use a little math here. Oklahoma City, A, won both matchups against the Pacers this year, and B, won 18 more games than the Pacers did. Oklahoma City is really good, but they're not unbeatable. And it's going to be a fun series starting on Thursday.
What else is going on with you, my friend? I know we've got a lot of Pacers, but I'm wearing my Vroom baby. Vroom baby. That's a pretty good one.
Well, I've got basketball too, but I've got Indiana All-Star basketball. So yesterday was the Indiana junior game against Kentucky. Played at Charlestown. Indiana won both games. Girls won in a rout by 42. Boys led by 30 plus. Ended up being an 11-point game, but the Indiana boys won. Luke Ertl was tremendous, scored 36 points, and played 34 of 40 minutes, even with 10 players in uniform. Todd Wolfley said, I just couldn't take him off the floor. So a good start for Indiana. Tonight is the Futures game, so the top sophomores and freshmen in the state will play. That's at Fishers. Wednesday night, it is the Indiana juniors versus the Indiana seniors. Those games are played at Greenfield Central, and that place, at least for the guys' game, should be full because you will have Braylon Mullins, Julius Gizzi, and Luke Ertl all playing in their home county in Hancock County, and Greenfield Central holds about 3,300. And so my guess is that place is going to be full on Wednesday night. Kentucky game is at Lexington Catholic High School on Friday night. And how about this for timing? The Indiana-Kentucky All-Stars will be at Gamebridge Fieldhouse. They managed to avoid both a Fever home game and the NBA Finals. So we're playing at Gamebridge on Saturday night, 4 days before the NBA Finals come to town.
What would have happened had the NBA Finals been scheduled for a home game then?
Well, the game would have been moved. As simple as that. Probably Southport Fieldhouse would have been. Probably Southport would have been where it would have gone because they are not allowed to play that game at a Division I college basketball facility. So
really?
there actually are a couple of NCAA rules that still exist apparently, and that's one of them. So, like for example, for a couple of years, the Indiana-Kentucky game was played at Bellarmine on the Kentucky side. When Bellarmine made the jump to Division I, could not play the game at Bellarmine anymore, and so you couldn't play it on a college campus. You could have gone maybe to the Indiana Farmers Coliseum, but frankly, someplace like Fisher, Southport's the biggest high school gym in Indy that has 7,000 seats. That's where it was for a couple of years. It's when they were doing construction, COVID, et cetera. So if for some reason they would have had to have defaulted on that, Southport would have likely been the landing spot.
Yeah, I know that's for quote unquote recruiting reasons, but it is funny. The few rules that are actually left seem stupid as hell.
Right.
There was one that I can't remember that I really just laugh at. Oh yeah, the one that gets me is if you're recruiting a kid, you can't talk about him. You can't say his name. And I'm like, everybody on God's green earth knows it's in every publication, but the coach can't say his name. I'm like, it's so stupid. That just shows you how many stupid rules there were, but yeah, oh well, big deal. But that's a lot coming up, man. That is a lot. The juniors, obviously. Hey, what shot do they have of the juniors beating the seniors? I'm always curious about that. Oh, I think I lost Greg for a second. He'll pop back in here, but yeah, I'm
sorry
always,
about that.
Curious. That's okay. What shot did the juniors have of beating the seniors this year?
I would say better on the girls' side than the boys' side, but this senior class in both is really stinking good. You know, on the girls' side, there were 4 or 5 legitimate Miss Basketball candidates. Maya Makaluski wins it and goes on to Indiana University. On the boys' side, not as there was an obvious Mr. Basketball in Braylon Mullins. Team was not as deep, but clearly, 10 to 11 all-star caliber players. It's a deeper class than was last year's. It is a deeper class than what the next year's group is going to be. In yesterday's game, I thought when the top seniors were on the floor, our top juniors were on the floor, they looked really good. When you got to like kind of the second string, there was a bit of a drop off there. And I think that continues when you bring in 5 or 6 new faces coming in for Wednesday night. So the seniors, I think, should win both. My best guess would be the girls' game should be more competitive than the boys' game would be.
Well, we'll look forward to that. And what about the seniors in Kentucky? I don't know much about the Kentucky side. I'll be honest with you, and I know that the Kentucky side is, as usual, a little light with guys like Jalen Harrelson and Trent Sisley not able to play in this, and so that would have made them a much more formidable team. But they still have several guys like Braylon Mullins and et cetera that will be filling that roster.
Kentucky's pretty good. Malachi Moreno, that is headed to play at the University of Kentucky, played AAU ball with a lot of the guys from Indiana. And so, Indiana split with Kentucky last year, really had to hustle to win the second game and avoid getting swept. And again, that was a team that, you had Flory Badunga, you had Jack Benner, and then there was a pretty significant drop-off once you got kind of past the top couple of players. Again, this year's group is a deeper group, but it's they'll get a good test on the boys' side from Kentucky coming up on Friday and Saturday.
When's the last time that Kentucky swept Indiana? That's been a minute.
It had been at least 20 years since that has been the case, and maybe back even to the mid-'90s. Indiana had a run for a decade where they didn't lose. That they lost in a double overtime game, I want to say in 2017, when the game was played in Frankfurt. They lost the game last year at Lexington Catholic on Friday night. And Flory Badunga mysteriously had 4 fouls pretty early in that game.
Yeah,
amazing how that works. Amazing how that works in Kentucky. And so, again, Indiana is the favorite most years this year. But again, I think they will be competitive games on the boys' side. Last year, the junior-senior game wasn't in girls. And again, senior class, my guess would be that Indiana should be the head for those 2 games coming up this weekend.
Well, we look forward to it, my friend, and make sure you're giving Greg a follow and keeping up with everything. It's on the ISC Sports Network as well. Anything else coming up?
I got plenty, man. I think having a to do. That's a slower week for me after the last 4 or 5 weeks. You can probably hear it in my voice a little bit. Told people from the business standpoint, summer starts today. From the broadcast standpoint, summer starts Saturday night at about 9:30.
According to Brian, the last time Kentucky swept the All-Stars was 86. That can't be right, can it?
I think there was a 95 or a 96 where they did too, if I remember. I've got it in my notes, just not right in front of me. But I think it happened at one point in time in the 90s as well. I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, you don't want to be on the team that lets that happen again.
I will say this, Jim. Had Chris Lofton not rolled his ankle in 2004 or 2005, it would have been in 2004 because George Hill and that group were playing in that game. Kentucky would have won. He was the best player of the 2 teams. That was still in the 2-weekend format. He had 41 down at the Sports Center in Owensboro. He gets hurt 4 or 5 minutes in against Indiana at the Fieldhouse, and that kind of completely changed the dynamic of the game. So sometimes it's because of injuries or players not being able to play. Having been there for those games, because I've been there for most of them over the last decade and kind of off and on over the last 20 years, there have been years where Kentucky's been the better team and it didn't work out for whatever reason. That's one of those times that I'll give you the asterisk on that one.
Here's away from that, back to the Pacers real quick. For the first time since 2007, the NBA Finals will feature 2 teams who did not play on Christmas Day.
That's right. I like that. We've been right. And again, I'll give you a stat back at you, because obviously you will get some that will complain about the market size of the 2 teams and the Midwest Nice NBA championship we're about to have. But the last time, Jim, that Indianapolis and Oklahoma City competed for a championship in something against each other would be the 1996 American Association Championship Series, won by the Oklahoma City 89ers, by the way, 3-1.
Daggone it. Oh, well. Maybe we'll swap it this time. What's up next for you, brother?
All-Star Week, this stuff. So futures game tonight.
Enjoy it. Make sure you're listening and tuning in and keeping up with everything they have on the ISB Sports Network. Greg Rakestraw, appreciate you, my friend.
Talk to you next week.
All right, brother. Have a great one. Hey, we've got more. Back with it on the other side from the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios.
Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemooreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios on this Monday. Getting your week started off. I hope you had a great weekend. A lot going on. Well, that's not true. I mean, NBA, the Indiana Pacers getting their shot to go to the NBA Finals. So other than that, it was kind of a relaxing weekend, and grateful for that. Gritty saying a shout out to Coach Kurt Signetti. Happy birthday to him. I believe that was yesterday, or was it today? I'm not sure, but happy birthday to the big man. Looking forward to the Pacers in the NBA Finals. That'll be fun as that gets started on Thursday. Weird stat about the Christmas Day thing, but and did you see? I mean, I don't know if the Indy Star considers it an embarrassment or the old adage that no publicity is all publicity is good, or Ernie, the TNT host, Ernie, I can't think of his last name, but he was kind of hosting the post-game celebration, handing out the trophy and all of that stuff. And Pascal Siakam won the MVP award. And as he was talking to him, said, well, you won't have to worry about dealing with questions about playing hard enough now. And everyone laughed. I mean, I don't know if their bosses look at it, it's like, oh, wow, that's great that it got that notoriety, because there are a lot of, the old adage is bad publicity. No publicity is bad publicity. And while it didn't reference the Indy Star, we all know what and whom they're talking about, but I don't think that it's good. especially when you've got both major basketball franchises that has had issues. Now, I will say this, and people need to understand, the job of a newspaper columnist is not to make everybody happy and to drop roses and make it rainbows and unicorns. You got to say stuff in your articles and this and that. And I get that and appreciate that. But drawing that kind of attention, that's not it. That's not what they're wanting. That's not what is good. But it is what it is. So who cares? We'll move on. But man, Indiana, hey, the Pacers. So looking forward to their opportunity. I think they've got a better chance than people think, but we shall see. Big John was in the house. Papa John Halliburton, who I mean. So Brian says he's not a reporter. He's still a reporter. But the columnist is more at it. But yeah, that's it. Hey, Indiana basketball, they've been busy. Scholarship offers going out Indiana continue. And you need to go to thehoosier.com. I'm telling you, on 3, get yourself a subscription. Help us at that. Helping those guys helps us. It helps us get better interviews for you, helps us do a lot of things, but also you can get a ton of information that the average person does not get. So I would greatly appreciate it, as I asked you, to go to thehoosier.com. Do it right now. You get a subscription for $1 for the first month, 50% off for the rest of the year. And I assure you the information in there will be more than suffice. I know some of you are subscribers already. I think Gritty's a subscriber. But Indiana offers a scholarship to 2026 4-star center Collins Onyeka. And I've talked about this. These guys have been out on the recruiting trail, man. They had the fact that they had to fill an entire roster and an entire staff and have hit the trail recruiting like this shows the night and day difference that Indiana basketball has in its coaching staff. It's magnified. I mean, by a factor of 10, but Indiana continued to look for the future on Friday, extending a scholarship offer to class of 2026 4-star center Collins Onyeka. He is a 270-pound junior, so he's not some skinny kid. He's 6'10", 270. At the Newman School in Boston, announced his scholarship on social media. He's originally from Nigeria, ranked 110 nationally in the 2026 class by On3. He ranks as the number 3 player in Massachusetts. So Indiana going after big guys, every guy. This team is not necessarily indicative of what it's going to be like in the future, I think, but pretty much I think that they'll have athletic big guys, but he's a developing big man with size and mobility. He averaged almost 10 points and 8 rebounds and 3 blocks per game in the past season. He plays AAU ball for Team New England on the Made Hoop circuit. He's a big 6'10", has long arms, and showed mobility throughout the weekend. On3 national recruiting analyst Jamie Shaw, who will be with us tomorrow, by the way, wrote in a scouting report last year. Still new to the game, he tracked the ball well, attacked the glass, both in his area and on the offensive end. He is an intriguing prospect. Yeah, Jamie Shaw with us tomorrow from On3, one of their basketball national senior writers, will join us. So looking forward to that. Also, let's see, later, Zach Browning with us today as well. We'll talk some football later. I'm trying to think who else is going to be with us later in the week. Oh, Bob Kravitz, normally with us on Thursday, will be on Friday because he is going to be in Oklahoma City for the start of the Pacers game. So looking forward to that. 2026 rising guard Bryson Howard also lands a scholarship offer from Indiana. They Heritage Texas high school product from Pro Skills on the Nike EYBL circuit. He's the son of former NBA player and Wake Forest standout wing Josh Howard. You may remember that name. He played 10 seasons in the NBA. Bryson Howard has been one of the standout performers this spring, almost 21 points, 5.5 rebounds, shooting 45% from three. Yes, I said 45.5% from three, 25 of 55, damn near 50%. That's pretty good. So a lot going on. Indiana just busy. There's a lot more than that, and a lot more that you can find at thehoosier.com because there are more like Cole Clower, Bruce Branch, Trey Thompson. A lot of offers, a lot of things going on in the basketball world for Indiana that you can keep up with at thehoosier.com. Prince Alexander Moody, scheduled visit. There's so much going on that you have to keep up with it. Yeah, you got to be in there. But Trey Thompson gets an offer. This basketball staff is busy. They're out after it. They're not handing out offers from the office. They are out in the field. They are out working. It's going to be such a night and day difference in the program. I'm looking forward to it for the fans because it is going to be fun for them. It's going to be fun to cover. It's always fun covering a winner. It's like football last year and will again be this year. So looking forward to it. It's always fun covering a winner. Trust me. People enjoy it. That goes without saying. Look what the crowds did for the football. I'm wondering what it's going to be like for those first three non-con games that aren't big opponents. Are the fans going to, are they going to show out and show up and understand that when you're supporting your football program, you have to support them in all the games, not the big games. I promise you, these other places, it doesn't matter who they're playing. The people treat the games the same. And it'll be interesting to see if the Indiana fans will do that. Those first three games are games that Indiana are obviously going to win. They're not, they're tune-up games. That's all they are. They're tune-up games. But then it gets real. And it gets real fast when Illinois comes to town. But I'm hoping that I'm hoping it's more of a festive atmosphere in those first three games by fans coming out and enjoying it. Although one of those is on a Friday. I'm not a fan of that. But the first game, 2:30 against Old Dominion, gives you time to tailgate, enjoy it. The next game, Kennesaw State, is a noon game. Not as much tailgating going on there. But then you follow that up with a late Friday game. It's going to be weird. Not a lot of tailgating there either because people getting off work. So wonky schedules. But we'll see. Looking forward to it. A fun season. Hey, let's take a quick break. From the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios, Dustin Dopirak will join us. Zach Browning, talk some football as well. On the other side, from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios, appreciate you being with us. And our great sponsors like Cheryl Sizemore, greatest realtor in the world. Go to CherylSizemoreSells@gmail.com. I'm telling you, from personal experience, she will go the extra mile to make your life easier. Trust me on that. And Hard Truth. Get out to Hard Truth, Nashville. Visit Hard Truth. It's a great place. They have tons of great products, great restaurant, tours. It's on a beautiful 325-acre facility. Everybody loves it when they go. We're back with more from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios.
Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's C-O-Y-L-E, to receive a discounted fundraiser. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So, no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Monday. So happy to have you with us. Hope you had a good weekend and looking forward to a good week. The NCAA president, Charlie Baker, says he sees value in expanding the NCAA tournament by a handful of games, which, there's been talk of that, which I personally don't see. Just look at last season. Indiana didn't deserve to be in, but they just, along with West Virginia, they just deserved to be in over North Carolina. That was the only issue last year. Other than that, there was no complaining that, oh, this team, they deserve to be in. No, they didn't. They did not. North Carolina absolutely did not deserve to be in. That was fraud. That was complete fraudulent by Bubba Cunningham, their AD, who was the head of the committee. I mean, I've never seen such brash, fraudulent behavior in a committee, and no repercussions. Still like to know, did he get that bonus that was in his contract for his team making the NCAA tournament? But Charlie Baker, the NCAA president, says he does see value in expanding the tournament by a handful of games, speaking during Big 12 spring meetings where conference leaders are discussing everything from the House settlement going on and on. Baker discussed the idea of expanding from 68 to 72 or 76. So that would be 8 more teams. So think about last season when there was people just complaining a little bit about those last 3 teams, whether it was Indiana, West Virginia, and North Carolina, yada, yada. That's it. Not 8 more teams. What the hell does 8 more teams do? You already have teams that barely make it in, that play in the play-in game. You're at the bottom already. But yet you want to add more bottom feeders? It is nothing but a money grab. And it cannot be good basketball. Those teams will suck. The teams at the bottom already suck. And then you want to add more sucky teams. Why? You're not adding value. There is no value to be had by doing that. There is no value to be had by there's no value to the tournament by adding 8 more unworthy teams.
I mean, they're going to get to the point where they may not. There may be teams that have losing records getting in, which that has happened by winning a tournament, but it's ridiculous. It's just about money. So there you go. In the wake of the historic men's basketball season that saw conference land, the SEC land a record 14 teams in the NCAA tournament, and Florida win the Natty, the SEC is looking to repeat history. One interesting headwind for the SEC and other top conferences for the upcoming year mentioned at the league meetings this week, and its looming factor hovering over the next men's basketball season. Asked about the SEC's quest to replicate history, first-year Texas coach Sean Miller pointed out that the latest numbers in the NCAA transfer portal essentially show 25% of the pie missing in terms of quality veteran players because of a reduction in numbers of those with an extra year of eligibility from the COVID eligibility rules. He said that is as wild as anyone considered this men's basketball portal to set up the 25 season. There was a missing notion. I'm not understanding what he's saying. One thing that's definitely going to change, and I don't think that it's talked about a lot in basketball, is the no COVID year. In our case, we had a number of players in my 3 years at Xavier that were exercising their fifth year, if a year that doesn't exist right now. Yeah, well, it didn't used to exist. Stop complaining. Get your players and play. Gee whiz. Yeah, I'm not interested in much that Sean Miller has to say. I have to be honest. It's always something looking towards them. How about baseball? I know that the Cubs, the Reds had a series. Got a Cubs fans on here. How did that go, by the way? I didn't get to see that, but right now in the standings, the Cubs are in first place. Yes, they are. 37-22. They've got a 4-game lead over the Cardinals, by the way. Cincinnati Reds are 8.5 games back. So you got that going for us, which is not good. Pittsburgh Pirates of our good friend Mike DeCourcy, they're dead last in their conference, or division, rather. And the Rockies, 9-50. Wow. I mean, that's a winning percentage of 15%. In the differential category of runs, like division leaders, the New York Yankees are plus 98. The last place in that division is minus negative 93. Last place in the Central, negative 52. Last place in the West, negative 110. In the National League in the East, the last place is negative 79. In the Central, it's only negative 58. The Rockies, negative 185. Whoops. That's why do you put out a professional team like that? I don't get it. It's the home fans. That this is like the Chicago White Sox, who are doing better than that, who are doing twice as good as the Rockies. But why? The league should not allow teams to put out a team that is that bad. I mean, that's horrible for a professional team. There's always going to be a last place. I get that. But that's beyond, because the team right in front of them, Arizona, is 28-31. My gosh, they're only 3 games under 500. So this is a massive, massive difference. The Colorado Rockies they're on a different planet than every other major league team. Every one of them. Yeah, there you go. White Sox versus Rockies. What a game that would be. That would be something. Michael says the NCAA is too busy adding more teams to the basketball tournament instead of providing an answer. you know what? You've got different groups working on that stuff, man. It's not like the same people are working on that, by the way. And they're not the only, Leal and Goody are not the only two waivers, I'm sure, that are on the desk of whoever is making those decisions. Russell says Indiana's Devies is waiting on the NCAA's decisions on those waivers. He hopes for clarification soon. Yeah, well, that's what was said at Huber's, of course. But we'll look forward to it. Hey, we've got more coming up in the next hour. We're back with it here at the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios. We'll see you then. When we return, Dustin Dopirak and Zach Browning in the second hour. Back with all that and more.
If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios on this Monday, and welcoming in our good friend Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star. Man, it's been a great run for you as the Pacers now reach the NBA Finals, Dustin, and not a surprise is the way they have played, but it's still a surprise if we go back to pre-January. Not a team that a lot of people probably picked to be in this position.
No, in middle of December, you weren't sure if they were going to be a lottery team. The way things started, obviously 10-15 wasn't good. Obviously at that point, had gotten a lot of bad breaks early in the season. You've seen now the importance of some of the guys they were missing. And Andrew Nembhard was dealing with knee tendonitis, and Aaron Nesmith had a sprained right ankle that cost him 35 games, and Ben Shepherd, strained an oblique. And those are 3 really important guys, and you can really see that now. But just the importance of them on defense, the things that they give you just on both ends, just the way they serve as connective tissue. On top of that, you had Tyrese Halliburton not playing particularly well in the first month of the season. Up till basically end of November, he was pretty bad. So at that stretch, you're looking at that team and saying, well, where is this group going? But really, since then, it's been terrific. I mean, even despite that, obviously coming into the playoffs, my expectation was they were still going to get to somebody like Cleveland and get beat because you're talking with about having 2 60-win teams in the East. In Cleveland and Boston. So I would say even at that point, you're thinking, well, it'd be a surprise that the 4 seed would get past, or really that either one of the teams that were in the Eastern Conference Finals would be there, because it just seemed like Cleveland and Boston were really just on a collision course the entire season. But didn't just win that semifinal series, but won it handily. And then some more impressive work in this past series, to put the Knicks away. As the Knicks are a tough out, and the Pacers had a couple shaky games in there, but otherwise just a really impressive performance for them to go up 2-0 on the road, up 3-1 to start with. Close it out at home in Game 6. Just a lot of impressive work for this group to come together the way they did, and again shake off some of the bad start that they had, and get themselves in this position.
Roswell says he saw Dustin mugging in the background on one of the many Pacer videos going around.
I don't know that I mugged. I was behind Miles Turner. I was behind Miles Turner when he was meeting with Nancy Leonard. That was a really cool moment, because it's weird with these post-game ceremonies things, because you're just not sure. As a reporter, you're not sure where you're supposed to be and not, because you're just like, all right, well, like what are we allowed to do? What are we not allowed to do? Because at first you're not on the floor, so you kind of watch it from your press seat, and then you got to kind of scramble down there and decide what you're going to see, and you don't know how long you have until press conferences and stuff, and you're trying to take in all of it at once. It's like it's definitely like system overload, and you're just trying to grab onto anything to catch as much sort of there's a whole lot of meaningful stuff going on all at once, and you're trying to see it all, but I did manage to get down there, basically, I ran on the PR people, and they said, basically, you got like 10 minutes to just watch this, just to kind of take as much of this in and bop around. And you can't talk to anybody, but you could just see this. And so I saw Miles Turner, just meeting with Nancy Leonard, and that's just a really cool moment. Miles has just been, it's been really impressive to watch, him grow into this is sort of, there's everybody's got kind of a different leadership role out of the guys that you would kind of put in that category. Like there's not one guy that you look at and say he's the dude. But Miles is probably, ambassador number one, if you will, in terms of just being a guy who's out there just, pushing the brand. Obviously, Halliburton's the guy with the biggest name, and certainly he's the most sort of media savvy and, the best player and all these kinds of things. But like Miles really sells what the Pacers have done and what he's been around, because he's been there for 10 years. He goes back to Paul George.
It's amazing. That's an amazing thing.
It is. At this stage, particularly how many times they've looked to trade him and it hasn't worked out. And particularly this last stretch when they were heading into this, like after they acquired Halliburton, there was certainly a moment where they were thinking they might, that it might be the right move for them, and they ended up doing it. He ended up being just the best fit that you could have at center. I understand people look at Miles and say, well, he doesn't do this thing, he doesn't do that thing, but what he does is really important. It really fits, what they do. He's a 3-level scorer. He scores at the rim. He scores in mid-range. He hits threes. He's really reliable as a pick-and-pop three-point shooter. And that just works really well for Tyrese Halliburton's game. Just having a center, kind of, setting a ball screen. You don't know what he's going to do. If you're defending, you're like, all right, well, you've got to be cognizant of him staying back and hitting the three, and you've got to be cognizant of going to the rim. But he might just stop on you and pull up for 10 feet. And being able to do makes him an offensive weapon that really fits next to Halliburton, because he's random as well. But he's been really solid. I thought did a remarkable job kind of mentally, emotionally, from processing that stretch where he thought he was going to be traded. And really, since he's got an extension, going back to, I think it was January of 23, you've really just seen a different guy. He was in a weird place heading up to that, but I think once he got that faith from the organization that they wanted him around, he's just been overjoyed to be around this. And so like the level out of everybody that you're happy for basically in that stretch. And it's like, obviously as a reporter, you're not supposed to have emotions with it, but like you just see human beings that you've been around accomplish something, and you're just like, okay, well that's you can't be opposed to it, I guess is the best way to put it.
You can't lock humanity out,
right? You kind of you have to say, like, what, like, good for somebody like Miles Turner, for going through all this. And everything that and he still takes heat, like on any random stretch in this, no matter how much he's done, it'll still be, he'll miss a couple rebounds, or Mitchell Robinson got a couple boards. It's like, what is Miles doing? It's like, oh my God, and like he still catches heat, but he's pushed through it and continued to just give them really good minutes, really good production, just be just a solid kind of stalwart at the front of the line for these guys.
Yeah, and this team is just fun because of what we've talked about so many times, in that, yeah, Tyrese and Pascal are probably looked at as the stars of the team, but this is a team that has a lot of stars in its universe. And you never know which of those stars is going to shine brightest on a particular night. And that is what has made this team so dangerous and why they're in the NBA Finals.
Right. No, I mean their entire operation is based on just moving the ball around, and it's supposed to not focus on one guy, and I think that's kind of like what gets like it's the point people miss when you're like deciding whether or not Halliburton's a superstar, and you're like the entire point of this is it doesn't matter. Like it's not like no, like at the end of the day, like if he gets superstar numbers or not, like or like it's like if he meets somebody's definition of what a superstar is, like that's not relevant. The point is the ball moves. The point is the ball moves. The point is that it finds the open man, and the point is that Halliburton gets it moving. And like I mean, he's the guy who sets the ethos, who sets the whole foundation of the thing. But like that leads to anybody can be open. Thomas Bryant can be open and bang 3 threes in an important game. Like, and it's not just so like it's anybody. Like it's like obviously they've got like kind of 8 main rotation guys, from the starting 5 and Mathurin and Toppin and McConnell, and most nights it's going to be one of those 8, but it can be Jarris Walker hitting a big shot. Obviously he's a little bit dinged up right now. It can be Ben Shepherd hitting a 3 when they need it. It can be Thomas Bryant stepping in when Miles Turner's in foul trouble and making some big shots. And it was even Tony Bradley at some point in this series. He barely played. He was a guy they picked up on a 10-day, but got in Mitchell Robinson's way enough to make an impact on that series, and just make sure that Robinson wasn't crushing them. So no, everybody steps up, and all the starting 5 and really those 3 main rotation guys have all had their moment where you've been like, well, that's the guy today. I mean, Aaron Nesmith obviously had has had many of those. I mean, Andrew Nembhard I thought had a phenomenal game in Game 6 to put this away. They switched him on to Brunson early, did a great job of just harassing him. And that was an interesting story too, because I mean, like it speaks to, the thing with Rick that's funny is like he gets killed for sticking with guys too long or not bringing them in fast enough or whatever it is. But like he tends to press a lot of buttons right. And, Nembhard got busted up by Brunson last year in the semis. And so he changed that, like Carlisle, kind of changed that series when he put Nesmith on him. And so he started this series with Nesmith on Brunson kind of primarily. But then, Nesmith picked up an early foul on Saturday, and, he's obviously been dealing with the ankle and kind of pushing through that, and Carlisle, moved Nembhard on him, and that changes the game. Nembhard had 6 steals. I mean, he was just all over Brunson in that game. And it's not guessing, obviously. Like he comes from somewhere with this, but it's like you would say like, okay, well, you had to have Nesmith on him because you saw what Brunson did to Nembhard last year, so you can't chance that again. But like Rick just said, like I had a really good feeling that Nembhard was going to have a great game, and he'd had a really poor shooting performance in this series. Big thing that changed there was when they switched their lineup up, they ended up putting Anunoby on him, and OG, basically swallowed him up. I mean, that's a really tough, deal for Nembhard to be guarded by OG. I mean, he's given up a lot of size there. And so he had to kind of figure out a way to respond. And figure out, but like one thing Rick did, it causes a natural cross match. Like OG then has to, if he still wants to guard Nembhard, like and Nembhard's not guarding him, like he's got to flip that, and they got to decide if it's still worth it for them to put Anunoby on him. And not only that, like in transition, you at least have an opportunity in a lot of cases where the other guy that you were just guarding is probably going to be on you, when it immediately flips. So, like it left for some opportunities for Nembhard that he hadn't had in several games, and he ended up with a terrific game. So no, that's what it's been all year. And these guys just, they keep finding ways, and certainly, you expect Halliburton most nights, you expect Siakam every night. Some nights it's Turner, some nights it's Nesmith, some nights it's Nembhard, some nights it's McConnell, some nights it's Toppin, some nights it's Mathurin. You never know which of those guys is going to step up, but they do. You always get some of them, and it's usually nights when they get 6 or 7 guys in double figures, and that's when they're at their most dangerous.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, even down to the role players, Thomas Bryant didn't play in the game before. And I had that conversation with Todd Lurie on Friday, and he talked about, hey, a lot of times it's about matchups where he plays in this game. He's not going to play in the next game. He said he may play a ton of minutes in the next game, which was the other night, and he did. And did he play well? And having a guy come off your bench that gets spotty minutes and to play that well, that's huge for any team. It doesn't matter who it is. But man, if you can have a guy that doesn't really get to play with frequency, it's amazing what that does, because what do you end up with? I don't even remember, but it was double-digit points.
Yeah,
I know that.
He had 11 points, 3 threes and a couple of free throws, 3 rebounds, a big block shot, really big block shot.
On OG.
Yeah. And so I think, well, I mean, like, you got to remember, like, just the narrative of the backup center position for this team. And remember, in the first 8 days of the season, they had 2 backup centers tear their Achilles in 8 days. So they had James Wiseman, like off season, they basically decided they couldn't pay Jalen Smith, what he was going to get. And so they let him walk. They go get James Wiseman, who had, hadn't put it together in his first couple stops. Obviously, that's the guy that was number 2 pick out of Memphis, just really good athlete, really big guy. They had, high hopes for him. Isaiah Jackson is a guy that really played well in the postseason, had been a terrific athlete. Both of those guys tear their Achilles in the first 8 days of the season. Like that's tough to watch. That's a heck of a break. That's tough to be like, all right, like you're expecting depth out of that spot. So, at that point, they're in a bind. Like they're missing 2 dudes that are like that they really feel good about, and again, they're done. Basically, like they had left open the possibility they could get back by the end of the year. Obviously, neither one of them did. They ended up trading Wiseman basically, but that's 2 open holes in your lineup, in your roster right out of the gate. So I mean, they're in scramble mode at backup center the rest of the year. I mean, for a while they were playing Obi Toppin. They signed Moses Brown for a little bit. Guy used to play at UCLA and was in the G League at that point. They had to wade water, because I mean I think they targeted Bryant pretty early, but you couldn't, the way it works in the NBA, the CBA, if you sign a free agent contract in the offseason, you can't be traded until December 15th. And Bryant was in Miami, not playing at all. Basically had been moved. Kelly Ware jumped him, basically among 2, IU guys. And they, but like the Heat were certainly willing to move him, but they couldn't do it until December 15th. They had to just sort of hang in there. So yeah, the Pacers gave Moses Brown like a 10-day. I don't think they even gave him a 10-day. I think they just signed him to a contract and waived him. And so they get Bryant, basically like they were so all over Bryant, and the Heat were so ready to make the move that basically that breaks like a day before they could even get him. And so like the Heat were like, hey man, we can't use him. We'll just you can have him for practically nothing. Let's just do a pick swap. So that's you'll really be giving us nothing at the end of the day, and you can just have him. We like this guy, but he's just not going to play for us. So you need him. Go ahead. And so they get Bryant that way, and then they eventually trade Wiseman, to Toronto for practically nothing, just to open up the spot, and they signed Bradley to a 10-day and then a second 10-day. And, basically you end up using both of those guys. Basically it was for different matchups. I mean, they felt like Bradley's a little bigger, and Bradley they just feel like Bradley's the rebounding is more of his strength. And so they looked at Mitchell Robinson and said, okay, we need somebody just to get in his way. Like Bradley doesn't have to do anything else. Bryant's got a more complete skill set. He can step out and shoot the 3. Bradley's 3-point shooting is rough, just to be, like safe about it, nice about it. But Bradley can really rebound. Bradley can get in there and mix it up. And so, and he can at least just box out. I mean, even if he's not going to get the rebound himself, I mean, he can just put a body on Mitchell Robinson, and him out there getting a lot of the minutes, because it was just like, just put a body on Robinson. Like you're out there to be in his way, and you just make it harder for him to rebound. And he's going to get a bunch of them, but just keep him away from the glass as much as you can. Just step in his way. And he was really effective, for that. But they needed a little bit more when Turner goes out. Basically, they weren't, it wasn't a situation where if you just put Bradley in there, I think he still did play, but he ended up straining his hip and he was out. I think it was actually game 5. Like in game 5, he strained his hip. And Brian ended up playing, and so Bradley didn't play because he didn't. Carlos said he couldn't really extend. Just couldn't get. Just hip didn't feel right enough to get explosion, and basically you're going to get more out of Bryant. So they've both had to be ready for that. I mean, Bradley went weeks without playing before they got him in. I don't know. I mean, like he barely even entered the game in Cleveland or Milwaukee at all. And so it was just basically they just didn't see an opening for him to make an impact. I mean, I think he got some garbage time minutes, but basically it was nothing. But like they saw an opportunity for him to play against the Knicks, and then it's like, all right, well, the situation changes and Bryant plays, and both of those guys, like, during the course of the early parts of the season, we're like, I don't know if I'm going to play again. Like Bryant wasn't sure he was going to get any minutes in Miami. Like Bradley was like 2 years in on a deal in the G League. Like, I mean, he'd been out of the NBA for like 2 years. So both of these guys are like just incredibly grateful just to be in the league, just to have a uniform. And so like anything you let these guys do, they're jumping at the chance. They're looking at any opportunity. So, they're not in position to get upset when they don't play in the first place. That makes a difference. I mean, like this was a godsend opportunity for both of them. But they are just wired as good dudes. I mean, they're just easy, locker room guys. Like Bryant, I mean, anybody that's covered Bryant, from at his days at IU, like that's all I heard from it. Many of you guys who were around him, I wasn't on the beat at that time. I missed those 2 years. I think it was when I was in Tennessee, but I mean, everybody I talked to was like, man, people reached out to me like JD and, Zach, just to be like, dude, you're going to love covering Thomas Bryant. Like he's just a super good dude. And, like that's what he's been in the locker room, and they love him. I mean, like he's hilarious. And he's a guy that really fits their vibe really well. Like fun. It just seems like he's a fun dude to be around, but is really enjoying the experience, is ecstatic just to be there. And so like you put Thomas Bryant in, and he just can't wait. I mean, like he's got, you'll see moments where he's out of position or something like that, but it's like, he's never not going hard. Yes, that's exactly right from Brian S. He's never not going hard. I mean, like there are times when he's like, misses an assignment or gets caught up in a screen. There was one time like I saw him just sort of like backpedal, lose his footing, and like just you spend the entire like go through the entire lane tripping. But like he, like whatever he does hard. Even if he's not right, he's gonna he's gonna play hard until he figures it out.
Absolutely, and knows that you've got to take and play the minutes that you're given,
sure,
because that's how you get more minutes. Right. And he has done a superb job with that, and so it has been great to see him get that opportunity, but more importantly, as a team, get it. But yeah, you hate to see OG have to go out, but that's part of life, man. But good luck to Thomas Bryant. And man, look at Thomas Bryant. He started out on a different team at the start of the season, and now he's in the NBA Finals. So what a great turn of events for him, and he gets to do it in the state where he played college ball, where you have a lot of fans that have a lot of love for him. His game, his improvement is amazing, but that shows you how and why guys that once they get to the pro leagues, his improvement. He was not a 3-point shooter in college. And he knocks these downs, and he's knocking these down when he gets the opportunity at the NBA level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wait, we're talking about Thomas still, right? Or are we talking about OG?
Yes, Thomas.
Thomas. Yeah. No, I mean, like it's, when you have to, like, you're in a position where you have to, I mean, the offense of the NBA just requires it, basically, is for 5 guys to step out, for the most part. I mean, like there's, not a handful, but, probably, I don't know, out of, if there's 60 centers top, first and second string, maybe 20 of them don't shoot threes, somewhere in that respect. And most of those guys are backups. But like if you can step in and shoot a 3, it makes a huge difference. And Bryant, it matters in the Pacers offense that the 5-man can shoot a 3. Because Turner can do it. Turner's having his best season 3-pointers wise, and being able to pick and pop off a screen makes a difference. Being able to space the floor when they're running when Siakam's the guy just setting the ball screen, all that stuff makes a difference. I mean, just their ability to play random, their ability to be tough to guard, it has helped a lot by having somebody that can shoot threes. Like, I mean, nobody, people post up in this league, but people don't just post up. Is the thing. Like where in college you'll see a guy run down to the post, turn around, and just play with his back to the basket the entire time. Like, even when centers are posting up, they're getting there out of movement. Like they're waiting until somebody switches onto them, and that's when they post. They don't do it. They don't spend an entire possession like this. And so you got to be able to move, and you have to be. It helps to force somebody to defend you out there. It goes a long way to make sure that whoever's guarding you can't sit back in the paint and wait for somebody else to try to go block their shot. So like it's really important to be able to step back and hit a 3 if you're a good 5-man. And Bryant's come a long way with that. But yeah, I mean, it varies, but he's had various spots where he's had to step in. He's got a ring already, from Denver. Obviously, he didn't play much on that team in particular, but I mean, everywhere he's gone, he's made an impact. He's obviously he's not been a top level guy necessarily anywhere, but was a starter, I think, with the Wizards for a while. Like made an impact with the Lakers, like stuff like that. I mean, he's been important. He's been useful for a lot of teams. Just in his time, and just feels like it's been longer than it is. I guess it's close to 9 years now. So, but yeah, he's come a long way, and also, I mean, like really just from the beginning, you could just see the importance that he was going to have, and they were just so desperate to have anybody at that spot to step in, and he's been really good there.
Yeah, and it's been fun to watch this. Now they've got to take on yet another gargantuan task, but they have met every challenge so far. Milwaukee, they were expected to win that series. I mean, we all expected that. But then you get to Cleveland, and no, not many people expected them to win that. Not only, I mentioned this earlier, but the ESPN guys, I think, went 0 for 22 or something like that in picking the Pacers through this playoffs.
I mean, I picked Cleveland. I'm not going to sit there and lie to you. Like, I'm not,
You're the number one seed. Why would you not?
Right. I mean, like, because we do get on our high horses a little bit here, where it's like, oh, the national media doesn't respect them or whatever, and like as though like and like look, like I mean, I've been telling everybody how good this team is, but I thought Cleveland was really good.
Well, they were.
Cleveland's not like this big market franchise of like Cleveland's Cleveland, like as though Cleveland doesn't have its own feelings of like disrespect by the bigger markets in sports in general. But I thought that Cleveland team was really good, between Mitchell and Mobley and Garland and Jared Allen, and they won 64 games. And Kenny Atkinson was coach of the year. And I was just like, well, when you're that good, I mean, they went. I mean, how many winning streaks did they have? They were double figure wins. I mean, like their losses were spaced out. I mean, like it was, they didn't lose 2 in a row very often. Like they didn't lose multiple games in a row very often. But I mean, the Pacers just took control of that series from the beginning. And it's just like when the Pacers rallied back in one game too, I'm like, well, they're actually going to do this. This is for real. And, I've kind of been picking them since, but, like Cleveland was a more established team. And so like, I mean, I picked the Cavs in 7, and I thought I was being respectful of the Pacers. And so I want to address the Siakam thing, by the way, because I'm getting heat, man. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I thought they were going to lose. I thought they were going to lose to Cleveland. I thought it was.
Well, you were in the. I mean, who didn't? And with good reason. There's
right.
You don't pick things with your heart. You use your brain and your mind like you did. You did.
I'm trying not to be hung. That's basically the biggest thing. Like,
exactly.
If I'm like, I pick Pacers every time.
You picked it as you saw it, and it made sense because.
Oh yeah, I mean, so my point is, it's not just like the national media. Like it was everybody. I mean, because again, when a team wins 64 games, you expect to at least get to the conference finals. You just presume that, kind of pencil that in. And I thought, hey, if the Pacers get to the semis, get beat by a 64-win team, win 50 games, that's a nice feather in the cap. Like that's a nice season. You can't, ding them at all. They're a contender. They're a team that's in a really good place. If that's how it ends, fine. And they end up, not just winning, but really dominating that series and taking it at 5. It was really impressive. And, pulling this one off. So yeah, I mean, so now you go from, Knicks, go from the Knicks to the Thunder. I mean, as good as Cleveland was, the Thunder are awesome. Like the last time, they got beat by the Thunder in the end of March. So they didn't beat Oklahoma City in 2 opportunities. And they got beat 132-11 in March. And, Carlisle basically comes out after that and is like, man, we just got beat by the best team on the planet right now. And so, like, obviously the Pacers are operating like one of the best teams on the planet. So, I mean, they are, they were playing just fine then at the end of March, and like really since the middle of December, from the middle of December on, they were 40-17. So that's a heck of a record. But like Thunder won 68-14. So even if you just take the smaller, kind of more successful version of the Pacers season, like the Thunder were still like like they still lost fewer games in their whole year, and they do present the challenge that basically like what the Pacers kind of theory of the case is, that they're going to wear you down, that they're going to exhaust you with all of this depth and, just run bodies at you and in full court press and play, and break as much as you can, and wear you down. And the Thunder is the first team they've played that's not built for that. That's like they're not built to be worn down. I mean, they roll 10 deep and, like easy, and they don't, like there's not a lot of guys there that you're like, oh, well, that's cake. If you get that guy on the floor, you're in good shape. Like, no, like Kason Wallace and like Alex Caruso are like 2 top line defenders, and they come off the bench for them. Isaiah Joe is their best 3-point shooter, and he comes off the bench for them. Like they've got dudes, and they've got two lines of dudes that, they've got 2 bigs that they can trust, and Jalen Williams and Kendrick Williams that come off the bench. Like they got a full, really good second unit. They could play, they could play fast if you want to. They could play slow if you want to. They could really, really guard, and, and they've got the MVP. So,
And did you mention that Jarris Walker's out?
He's out at least the first 2 games with an ankle injury. It's a sprain, apparently. He was on another radio station this morning.
The Fan, yeah.
Yeah, and he, he said basically that it's going to be that he's going to be out at least the first 2. And, again, it was a sprain. He didn't, I think a lot of people thought it would be broken. And so nothing he said suggested a fracture. So I think that's worth noting. Basically gave the impression that he's going to do treatment and see where it goes. And so, like, obviously, you can treat a sprain, like a fracture, you just have to let heal, and it might heal cleaner in the long term. And a sprain might, some severe sprains might be worse than a break. But basically, like, if you break something, you're out, for a while, and there's just nothing you could do about that. So he's, so apparently, like, he didn't say there's no break, but, got the impression just because it's something that he thinks that over the course of the series that it's possible for enough treatment to get it done, that it does not suggest a fracture.
We'll take a quick break. The beat writer from the Indy Star for the Pacers, Dustin Dopirak, with us. When we come back, we'll talk about Pascal Siakam and what chance do the Pacers have against this vaulted Oklahoma City team? Coming to you from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios, back with more. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular Toasted Coconut Rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Monday. I hope you had a great weekend and a week started off right. Dustin Dopirak, the beat writer from the Indy Star for the Pacers, joining us. And you're getting ready to head to Oklahoma City. The games start on Thursdays. The NBA Finals get beginning. Pascal Siakam won the Larry Bird Eastern Conference MVP.
Yeah.
Deserving?
I'm in trouble on that. I do want to say I'm not going to Oklahoma City because got a wedding this weekend. My wife's best friend Lindsay is getting married, and my boy Zach Osterman is stepping up for me. So I want to send my appreciation to him. That's my boy. Obviously, you guys all know we go back forever. But he's doing me a real big solid on this one because this is one.
I remember him talking. I saw him down at Huber's, and he was talking about that he would be covering the.
He will be covering game 1 and 2 of the finals, so that'll be your guy to follow for the first couple games of the series. So that's a really big one. This is like you got some of them obviously in the course of this job. You have to skip some weddings, but there's you can skip, and this is one of the ones you can't skip. So obviously timing is what it is, but appreciate Zach, kind of stepping up for me. So that'll be your guy.
I'm sure he doesn't exactly hate getting to go cover an NBA Finals game.
Probably not, but he is a father of two. It's a burden basically. Like it's not nothing. It's a lot of days, out on the road. I mean, he'll be there. I don't know if he'll be there Wednesday, but it'll at least be there Thursday through Sunday, and so that is not easy. So thanks to Audrey too, by the way, for that is a not small burden on Audrey coming through for this. So from our house to yours, Ostermans, we thank you. But yeah, so obviously these are friends of ours that go for me back 15 years, so you guys all know that. But anyway, yeah, the Siakam vote. So I'm in like everybody's killing me over this.
Why?
Because everybody thought Halliburton should get it, and not everybody. A lot of people do. So it was a 5-4 vote. I did not expect it to be. I did not.
I don't think so. I agree with you. I mean, not that. Siakam had 39 points in one game. He had
3 30-point games. My view was he's just a little bit more consistent. And obviously how if you ask me who is their MVP as a team, who is the guy that most makes them go, who is the reason they're in the position they're in, I would say Tyrese. That's certainly the case. And if you look and all right, and as Rick Carlisle mentioned before, it's like they don't have Pascal if they don't get Tyrese first. Basically that would never have happened. They wouldn't have been in position to be able to acquire a guy like that. They wouldn't have, they had to get to a place where it was a place that Pascal wanted to go and wanted to re-sign. And Tyrese Halliburton is number one reason why that's the case. So but that's not what the vote's supposed to be about. It's just supposed to be about that series. It's supposed to be those games. And
right.
I got busted up a couple years ago when they went to the in-season tournament finals, and I voted for Tyrese, even though they lost to the Lakers, because I thought it was a bigger deal for the Pacers to be there than the Lakers were. I thought they had a tougher road to get there. I thought Halliburton was incredible the entire event, and basically I was reminded by the NBA folks that were putting the vote together. They said, "Hey, you just remember it's the whole event. It's not just these games in Vegas. It's not just this game. It's the whole thing going all the way back to group play. You're considering every game that was involved." And I was like, you know what? I think Halliburton is the most important player. I think the Pacers are going to get more out of this than the Lakers do, and the fact that they get they're in some environments and situations that they wouldn't be in otherwise. Basically, when they're never on TV, they get that they got another game against Boston at home. They got a game against Milwaukee. All of this creates a more this competitive environment that's going to make a difference for them when they get in the playoffs. They've achieved more by being there, and Halliburton's the central reason why they did. So even though they lost the series, I still thought Halliburton was the most important player in the whole event. And I got hell for that because I was the only guy who voted for him then. But this time, it's a 5-4 vote. I went Siakam, and so if I would have voted for Halliburton, it would have been Halliburton. And so, I feel weird about that.
You were the deciding vote, so we have to remember
we're all the deciding vote. Anybody who voted for Siakam is technically the deciding vote. So it's not just me. It's not like they went 4-4 and they were like, "Dustin, what do you think?" I had no idea who.
So you're not the chief. So you're like, I'm not the chief justice here.
No, this isn't exactly it is 9 also, which is sort of hilarious, but it's not like I was meeting in there where it's you get all the votes and you have a sense where everybody's going.
How they decide who with that small of a number? How they decide? Which I know beat writers.
It's mostly I think they do one beat writer from each team, and they do a lot of sort of national voices, TV. National print reporters, national, but like Reggie Miller got a vote. I know Katie George got a vote from ESPN. Steve Ashbrook covering it for NBA.com. Probably Bontemps from ESPN, I would think. Maybe Joe Varden from The Athletic. I know all got a vote. And so I can't think of, I'm not sure who else, but
That sounds like a very broad mix.
Broad spectrum. So yeah, I mean, like, we didn't convene. It's not like we decided, like, okay, who are we giving this to? It's just you have your vote, and I thought, just especially, I mean, like, it's also like the rhythm of covering a game. Like, I was like, Pascal had like 25 at half or something like that, or 20 something at half, and they were up, and I was like, okay, well, he's the guy. He's that. It is my fault, Brian. I'm sorry, I did it. I'm the guy, but I'm catching all kinds of hell for this. But I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's still, like, they're there, like, I don't think anybody's going to be mad at me when I go in the locker room. Like, Ty might be a little miffed. I'm not sure. But all the same, it's not like I went and picked Brunson or something like that. Like, it's another one of certainly a guy that had a lot to do with them going there, and they're there. They're in the NBA finals. That's going to be the most important thing that they remember. Obviously, it's not, whoever wins that trinket doesn't really stand out that much in the first place. And obviously, finals MVP ends up being a bigger thing. So if they win it, that's going to be more remembered. And if Tyrese goes out and wins that thing, he'll totally forget who even won Eastern Conference Finals MVP. So, but yeah, it's a trip. It's fun. It's just funny to me that it's like, like, they'll kill you on Twitter for this stuff, man. People see this stuff and they're up, they're at you, and they're like, I cannot believe you're that ignorant. I'm like, I watch this team all the time. What do you mean? Like, stop. I don't hear about anything about ignorance, But
all right. So the overwhelming favorite is Oklahoma City in this series, in this upcoming NBA Finals series. What shot do the Pacers have?
I mean, they have a shot. I mean, like, like, you can always string together stuff. I do think the Thunder are a machine. Like, I mean, like, I watch them and I see a machine. Shea's a machine. Like, I think it's weird. Gilgeous-Alexander is I can't think of a immediate kind of analog for him that, like, he's the MVP of the league, and there's just so little flash to his game. Like, for a guy that averages 37, like, there's not like these like highlight reel plays. It's just like he gets to his 8-foot jumper over and over and over again, and you either foul him or he hits it. And then he hits threes, he gets to the rim, like, he can score at every single level. But like, like, you see stuff like Anthony Edwards can get up there and just throw down a dunk or hit these bombs. Curry can hit from wherever, like, and Jokic just sees stuff that you're like, okay, that was a magic trick. Like, how did you possibly make that pass? How did you see that guy? Like, where did that come from? Shea, you don't really see stuff like that. But I talked to Halliburton after they lost in Oklahoma City to them. And what impressed Halliburton about him is he kept saying, he doesn't waste a single step. He's like, everything he does has a purpose, like, he's going, like, he's never, like, he's always heading in his direction, and in the direction of the spot he wants to get to. There's just no wasted motion. There's just no wasted anything. And it's pretty remarkable. And like, Kyrie's obviously, part of his game is dancing around a little bit. Like, he's moving in, he's moving out. Like, it's this kind of like stick and move like a boxer kind of thing. Like, he'll jab and then he'll step back, and he's like, his skinny funky legs where he somehow manages to get into a step back three that he hits, even though he doesn't look, like, the motion doesn't seem to make any sense. Shea's the opposite. Like, just everything Shea does, like, looks like it's going somewhere. And like, you're never looking at him and say, where are you going? Like, it's very clear where he's going, but you can't stop him anyway. He gets there anyway. He's faster than you. He's quicker than you. And he's strong, like, he's wiry strong. He's a guy that, like, just can just power through people. And again, if you're not, and he draws a foul, and Halliburton kind of pointed that out. He's like, I know that's there's not a great narrative on the sense of somebody going and being a foul merchant, that somebody kind of goes out and just finds a way to draw contact and sells it. Brunson does it. Gilgeous-Alexander does it, but it's just like, it is a skill, and when you know that you're going to get the calls, like, hey, like, like, why would you not? And so you go and get those buckets. And so they've obviously, Pacers haven't stopped a superstar yet, but they've still won. Like, that's another thing to say, that, like, like, they didn't stop Giannis, they didn't stop Mitchell, they kind of stopped Brunson in a couple games, but those guys all put up mega numbers, and you had to be impressed by their, like, you didn't come away thinking that any of those three guys blew it. Like, you didn't come away thinking that any of those guys were anything but top caliber all NBA players. And I imagine Shea will do the same thing. Obviously, the Pacers will have to find a way to get their own stuff done. I mean, they'll have to create some turnovers. They'll have to, create some pace. They'll have to run at the Thunder, and that not stop running and just keep going after it. The Thunder will be willing to play that pace. They're not afraid of it. That's not necessarily their thing, but they'll do it. But and they got to hit some shots. And Pacers got to hit some shots, and they've got to be able to defend the Thunder, keep them from hitting shots. So when Oklahoma City shot it really well, they were pretty much a Death Star. Like you just couldn't touch those guys. But I mean, they can miss them, and they've lost some games in these playoffs. They had to go to 7 with the Nuggets. They only got beat once by Minnesota. When they got beat, they got trashed. So it's possible. Things can go go wrong. I mean, like on paper, you don't look and see where the Thunder can lose this. But games aren't played on paper, and you just you cause enough turnovers, hit enough shots, you can flip a narrative and you can win.
Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star. Make sure you're following and keeping up with all that he does with the Indiana Pacers. And, of course, Zach, he'll be with us on Friday. So looking forward to that. Have a great week. Enjoy your trip to the wedding.
Will do. It's not a trip. It's here. But so not going anywhere, but I'll be watching. I'll be following. So, I'll keep up with you guys. Thanks, Sean.
Dustin Dopirak, make sure you're following. Appreciate you, my friend.
Appreciate you.
More coming up from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Zach Browning from the Hoosier joins us next on Indiana Sports Beat Radio from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studio. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemooreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Monday. Hope you had a great weekend, and hope we're getting your week started off right. Zach Browning from the Hoosier.com joins us now, and man, there is so much going on, although it's the off season. Lots of guys reporting right now, Zach. Basketball players probably laying down right now, wishing they hadn't gone through what they went through this morning. Football players coming into school. You've got everybody arriving into campus, especially these new freshmen getting indoctrinated, got to go through the stuff that freshmen go through with school and all of that. There's a lot, especially for freshmen, to go through right now.
Yeah, there's plenty going on around Bloomington. You mentioned the football team. They've had summer workouts. It's been a lot of more physical conditioning stuff with Eric Owings rather than on-field stuff, drills with the position coaches and stuff like that. But on the basketball side, you mentioned it. Of course, the new initial is what they're calling it, Indiana basketball roster announced about 25, 30 minutes ago. So those guys are all on campus. Those guys are going to start more individual workouts than anything in the coming weeks. But it's an exciting time around Bloomington. Football, basketball, everything in between. The baseball transfer portal season is getting underway in a little bit as well. So a lot of stuff just around Indiana athletics right now.
I find it notable that they call it the initial roster. What spawns that, do you think? I mean, besides Darren DeVries' initial roster, I get that, but
Is that what that means? Or does that mean there's something yet to come?
I mean, you have to assume it's probably because there's something yet to come. I mean, there's still 2 open scholarship spots available, and those aren't gonna go empty for the entirety of the season. So whether it's Anthony Leal and Luke Goody, whether it's just one of them, whether it's neither of them, and it's a couple of other guys from the portal that Indiana's yet to really announce or make contact with yet, it remains to be seen. But it is important. I do think it's kind of telling that both Luke Goody and Anthony Leal's numbers have been taken. Anthony Leal's number 3 and Luke Goody's number 10 have been taken on the initial Indiana roster. So we'll see if that pays dividends or means anything, or if we're reading kind of too far between the lines on that one. But yeah, no Anthony Leal, no Luke Goody on the quote unquote initial roster. So we'll see if that means much. But obviously, the NCAA is still a lot to weed out and a lot to go through as far as granting and not granting these waiver requests. So over the coming weeks, Anthony Leal and Luke Goody, they should know whether or not they have that extra year of college basketball eligibility or not. And then the Indiana can kind of, and Darren DeVries mentioned it at Huber's last week. He kind of mentioned it, we can't sit around and wait forever on this decision for Anthony Leal and Luke Goody. So as much as we'd like to have them next season, we can't sit around for the next couple of months. We have to fill those final 2 spots at some point, whether they get that request granted or not.
And something just notable, just to mention it, then you mentioned numbers. The players are keeping the numbers in the smaller range, and it goes from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11, 12, 14, and then number 30. That's a pretty tight number system there. Usually guys a little bit more range, but unusually tight, and the smaller numbers.
Yeah, it's weird too because all of the scholarship players have the numbers 1 through 12. The 10 scholarship players are 1 through 12. Jordan Rafer, not a scholarship player, number 14, and Ian Stevens, not a scholarship player, number 30. So that's interesting as well. And you can kind of see just the makeshift hole there with number 8 and 9 that haven't been taken. Those would kind of be the next 11th and 12th scholarship players that Indiana could potentially bring in. And of course, there's probably those numbers probably aren't set in stone. They probably aren't concrete. So if Luke Goody or Anthony Leal gets that waiver and Luke Goody goes to Josh Harris and says, hey, I'd like my number 10 back, I'm sure they could figure something out. Or if Anthony Leal goes to Lamar Wilkerson and says, hey, I know you got a lot of NIL money to come here, Lamar Wilkerson, but I could give you something. I could help you sell a house or buy a house or something like that. Take my number 3 back.
Yeah, we'll see how that happens, man. We've seen it before in the pros where guys like to buy their numbers when they're not available. But yeah, we'll see how it turns out, and we'll see who the potential additions are, because down at Huber's, Darren DeVries noted that it's still not closed that they bring somebody else in.
Yeah, it doesn't have to specifically be Luke Goody or Anthony Leal. There's a couple ways this situation could go from my vantage point. There's the obvious Luke Goody, Anthony Leal, they get their waivers, they join Indiana. That's pretty clear cut. That's pretty obvious solution. There's the solution where neither of them gets their waiver, so Indiana has to go another direction and look for 2 different players. There's the possibility that just one of them gets their waiver. In that situation, I think Luke Goody would probably be more likely than Anthony Leal if just one of them were to get that waiver, and then Indiana looking for one guy out of the portal, one more addition to finalize the roster. Then there's the possibility where, you don't hear anything, and you don't hear anything, and you don't hear anything, and all of a sudden it's mid-July or we're approaching August, and we still don't have a concrete decision on the eligibility of Anthony Leal and Luke Goody. And at that point, you're probably already too late. If it's July, if it's getting into closer to August and you don't have an answer on Anthony Leal or Luke Goody, you probably have to move on no matter what. Even if they do eventually get that waiver, it's probably too late at that point. So I'd imagine there's 2-3 weeks maybe that Darren DeVries max is going to give Anthony Leal and Luke Goody, is going to give the NCAA to kind of come to a decision on those waivers. If there hasn't been a decision made in those 2 or 3 weeks, I'd assume that Darren DeVries and IU will probably look to go a different direction. You can't leave those final 2 roster spots open into July. That's too late at that point.
Yeah, and nothing against either of those players, but with the roster set the way it is, with so many guys that basically play their positions, I'm not sure this is a loss or a gain. either way. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, Anthony Leal brings all this experience and Luke Goody brings this experience in shooting. Well, allegedly they have the shooting, and it's going to be a completely different system. Maybe it's a system that they fit better in than previously, but it's where's the room? Where's the minutes for these guys? That's the thing. The guys that were brought in, they fill those spots.
And it's interesting because they're kind of different cases. Luke Goody, obviously, there's not really ever a thing of having too much shooting. This roster and last year's roster are in different places. Last year, Luke Goody was very important because that roster lacked a lot of shooting just in general, but this roster doesn't. But you can never have too much shooting. So Luke Goody, I'm assuming, would always be welcomed back with open arms. Anthony Leal's a little different because of the amount of guards and the quantity of guards. Now, you can debate whether or not Anthony Leal's better than any of those guys, how many guys he's better than, if he's better than any of them at all. But you've got Josiah Miles, Jason Drake, Lamar Wilkerson, Connor Enright, Tayton Conaway, Nick Dorn's sort of a guard. Tucker DeVries is a bigger guard. There's a lot of just guard players that can handle the ball on this roster and can kind of do Anthony Leal type things, maybe even a little better than Anthony Leal. So it's interesting. Maybe Anthony Leal gets that waiver. He comes back as like a 14th, 15th guy on the roster. Maybe he does some kind of GA stuff. Maybe he transitions into more of a staff role. Who knows? But Anthony Leal, Luke Goody, it's just a situation IU fans are going to monitor. And you mentioned it. This is also an opportunity for Indiana to potentially look elsewhere. A lot of IU fans have been clamoring, the center spot is small. Reed Bailey's 6'10", Sam Alexis and Josh Harris, they're 6'8". If you don't get Luke Goody and Anthony Leal and you have that extra scholarship spot, you can go look for maybe that true 7-foot rim running center. I doubt he's going to be super talented at this point, but it's not going to be a top tier like Federico type rim running 5 that's 7 foot and can do all those types of things. But it's going to be a guy that at least can be serviceable, bring some size. So maybe Indiana looks at that rim running 5 that's a little bit bigger, brings a little bit more size. Maybe they look in the backcourt again. There's a lot of different avenues. It's kind of an open book because Indiana, they seem to have a good core group of guys. There's not any glaring position of need, maybe outside of that massive 7-foot plus center. So we'll see what Indiana decides to do. Of course, Luke Goody and Anthony Leal, I'm assuming those would be the number 1A and 1B options to fill those last 2 spots, but we'll see what the Hoosiers do.
Yep. And on the other side, football, we got to speak with both of the head coaches down at Huber's last week, and Kurt Signetti, of course, the featured speaker, the man of the hour. But he's very happy with his recruiting, his off-season recruiting, where they're going. And you can tell because the guys that they're talking to, that they're offering, that are looking at Indiana seriously, it's a higher level, a higher caliber of player now. And that's what is going to take to continue to grow that program.
Yeah, Indiana's got some 4-stars already committed. There's a couple of other 4-stars that Indiana's kind of in on and kind of looking at and are in that final kind of grouping the Hoosiers are. But you look at Gabe Hill, you look at Henry Olinger, Lawrence Timmons was just recently upgraded by On3 to a 4-star. So there's a lot of talent. There's 3 4-stars officially right now, according to On3 in Indiana's 2026 class. And that's fantastic for Kirsten because, again, when I talked to him last year at the end of the season, it was after that Notre Dame game, Indiana season was over. I asked Kirsten in the post-game press conference, I was like, hey, you have 2 losses this season. The eventual champion and the eventual runner-up, Ohio State, Notre Dame. What is the biggest difference between this Indiana team and that Ohio State team and that Notre Dame team? And he said, A, the depth, which Indiana has kind of helped a little bit. It's kind of difficult when you're kind of flipping how many transfer portal prospects Indiana's had to flip. But the depth was part number 1. And part number 2 was just the sheer size and the physicality of those guys up front on both the offensive and defensive line. And I think that's something where the stars of high school recruits really come into play. And stars of college football transfer portal recruits as well. You look at a guy like Pat Coogan. He's a highly touted guy, and he's big. When it comes to high school recruiting, and there's a debate, stars don't matter, blah, 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 all of that stuff. But in football, it's kind of different than basketball. In football, the stars aren't necessarily talent. They aren't necessarily ability. We've seen guys like Mikhail Kamara, Aiden Fisher, D'Angelo Pons, James Carpenter of this past year's team. They weren't highly touted guys. They didn't have a ton of stars coming into college football. And look, Mikhail Kamara is an All-American now. Aiden Fisher, D'Angelo Pons, they're All-Americans. So stars don't matter. They don't mean everything. But when you're looking at a guy like Gabe Hill, he is 17 years old and is 6'2", 275 pounds. That's what you're getting when you're getting a 4-star recruit rather than a 3-star recruit. If you look at a 3-star and he's 6 foot, 250 pound, 17-year-old is going to have to put in a lot of work with Derek Owings to try and get to that Big Ten caliber of size. You look at the guys that Wisconsin, Iowa, Ohio State, Michigan, those guys come in, they're 5-star offensive linemen, they're 5-star defensive linemen, and they are 6'5", they're 300 plus pounds, and that's something you just can't teach. And that's kind of the difference between the 3 stars and the 4 and 5 stars, at least from a college football perspective and from the high school perspective. So with Indiana being able to get those bigger guys, I mean, you look at Henry Olinger, that's a linebacker that's 6'1", 210, and he's 17 years old. You look at Lawrence Timmons, 5'10", 175 as a defensive back, and he's 17 years old. That's what you're recruiting for as far as the stars are concerned, and that's what Indiana needs to compete with the Ohio States, the Notre Dames, the Michigans of the world, and really push themselves to be consistently in that college football playoff picture.
Yeah, if Indiana can continue to get these guys that are high 3 and 4-star guys, there is no doubt they can develop them into 5-star material because they've done that. Look right now, you can look at their defense and all of those guys that are All-Americans, D'Angelo Pons, Aiden Fisher, Mikael Kamara. There was a perfect examples right there, but they were all Americans. It's what they can become. It's what the potential is. And you mentioned that size. There's nothing you can do about size as far as increasing it or wishing it to be there. It's either there or it's not.
You're exactly right. And that's what you get out of that extra star, that extra 2 stars if you're a 4 or 5-star. Mikael Kamara is great. And we've already seen what Indiana can do as far as a development standpoint is concerned. Indiana has shown, Kirsten has shown, that he can develop players. It's not just quarterbacks. It's not just any specific position group. He's shown he can develop guys like a D'Angelo Pons from not really a highly rated recruit. Now he's an All-American. Now he's one of the top cornerbacks in the country. A guy like Elijah Surratt on the offensive side, Mike Shanahan, developing him from where he was at St. Francis to an all-conference guy at JMU and now an all-conference caliber guy at IU in the Big Ten. So the player development is there. But what getting that 4-star guy like a Henry Olinger, like a Gabe Hill, like some of these guys in Indiana's 2026 class, it kind of gives you a head start. You're not developing them from a no-star, a guy who's maybe less talented into an All-American caliber player. You kind of get a head start and you get those physical traits. Mikael Kamara, he's not the biggest guy, but he's obviously an All-American. You look at D'Angelo Pons, his height, his size has kind of been the knocking point against him throughout much of his career, but he doesn't care. But when you bring in a guy like Lawrence Timmons, he's a 4-star. You bring in some of these 4-stars, they have that size. So when you combine that just unteachable size plus the fact that Indiana has shown in the past couple of years, this Indiana staff, whether it's at IU or whether it's at JMU, this Indiana staff has shown that they can develop players, whether they're big, whether they're small, they can develop guys. So when you bring in that kind of higher caliber recruit, and that's what Kirsten called it at Huber, kind of a little bit of a higher caliber, upper echelon level of guy, then their kind of starting point is higher. So they can even get developed even into a further kind of stardom at the college level. So I think that's the important part. That's where, again, days for hours, but there is a point where you just can't teach the size that some of these 4 stars and 5 stars bring to the table.
Yeah, there's one thing I say all the time. You can't coach speed. You can't coach against speed. There's nothing you can do. Speed kills. If you have guys that are just flat out fast, there's nothing that can be done about that. Or on the other side, then you're in trouble if you've got a guy who is just a blazer. It's going to be almost impossible to cover. So size and speed are both things that Indiana has lacked throughout the years as in comparison to other programs, but that is no longer the case. And it's why they had the year that they had last year and why that they're going to have the year that they're going to have this season. Now, what this season is going to be like, I can't predict it exactly, but I feel pretty good about where they are and what they're going to do, even though this schedule is much tougher than last season, and it's tough.
It's period, tough period. And anybody says otherwise is doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. You open up Big Ten play with a game against what I've seen some people rate a top 10 team already in Illinois, even though that's at home. Illinois needs to win that game. They can't afford, because they also have tough games on their schedule. So they were a team that was close to being a CFP team last year, won 10 games. But Indiana, a little bit better. That is going to be a gigantic game. Then Indiana has 2 back-to-back road games at Iowa, at Oregon, that are also going to play a part in what people see in Indiana, how they view them, because not only getting that big win, but getting a road win, that is going to be of uber importance. They also play Penn State on the road later in the year. So if they can win one of those 3 and win their home games, I've said it over and over, that's a 10-2 season. And to me, 10-2 with that schedule is CFP worthy again.
Yeah, this schedule is difficult for Indiana. We will know exactly who this Indiana football team is and what kind of damage this team can do from a national perspective by week 6. Because you look at the first 3 bye games, those non-conference games, they are what they are, but then you get right into it. Illinois, as you mentioned, some outlets have them ranked inside that top 15. Some outlets have them ranked as the number 10 team in the country. Illinois will be a big test for Indiana. That's at home. You expect that to be 52,000 capacity crowd at Memorial Stadium in week 4. That's a late September game. The weather should be pretty decent for that one. Late September. It should be a pretty nice evening day whenever that kickoff is. But Illinois in week 4, that'll be a big one. Again, if you think about Indiana just winning their home games, that's a home game. That's probably the biggest home game of the season for Indiana. We will know a lot about Indiana after that week. Then, of course, they go to Iowa the very next week, which that's an incredibly tough place to play. Kinnick is not easy for anybody to play in. Iowa City, not an easy place, basketball or football, to play. At Iowa, that'll be a tough one. On the road, Iowa maybe not going to be one of the top tier teams in the Big Ten this upcoming year. They aren't.
I don't know. I really don't know. Iowa's a team that I don't know, because they brought in a really good quarterback, and I'm interested to see what that's going to be like. Plus, playing at Iowa is always tough.
You're exactly right. I just don't know if I'm yet going to put them. I'll have to see them play. I want to see them on the field. It's kind of like a Indiana basketball thing. They have all those guys they brought in, but I want to see it on the field before I kind of give them their credit and really properly rate them. But Iowa, they aren't going to be necessarily the Penn States of the Big Ten or the Ohio States or the Oregons, but they're going to be a tough team, especially on the road. So you look at that game, and then you get the bye week. That'll be an important bye week. You can kind of reset, whether you go 2-0 in those games against Illinois and Iowa, you go 0-2, 1-1, whatever it is, you kind of reset. And then you've got Oregon. Now, Autzen, again, one of those tough places to play out there in Eugene. You've got Oregon. Obviously, they were the number 1 team in the country for pretty much all of last season. That's going to be a tough game. Then you kind of get your break. You've got Michigan State, UCLA, Maryland. Those can kind of be some get-right weeks if you're Indiana. Michigan State isn't expected to be super good. They're at home. UCLA, we'll see what Nico can do there if he can come in and be a star, but that's at home, so you'd expect to probably win that. Maryland on the road. Maryland's not going to be great next year, so you expect to probably win that. If you're an Indiana team trying to contend for the playoff, you expect to beat Maryland on the road. And then you've got Penn State. And that's a late November or an early November game at Penn State. Not sure if that'll be the whiteout game or not, but that'll be one of, if not the toughest crowds that Indiana plays in all season. We know Indiana struggled a little bit with the crowd, with the offensive line and the cadence last year at Ohio Stadium against the Buckeyes. So those 4 games, though, you can see all 4 of those being losses potentially. You can see 3 or 4 of those, 2 or 3 maybe of those being wins. But if you're Indiana and you look at Illinois, Iowa, Oregon, and Penn State, 3 of which are on the road, if you can win 2 of those, and then you just take care of business in the rest of the games, like you said, Jim, that's 10-2. And I'd be hard-pressed to leave Indiana out of the college football playoff. Of course, the SEC will probably have something to say about that with all their whining. But I'd be hard-pressed to leave Indiana out of the college football playoff at 10-2 with 2 wins over 2 of Illinois, Iowa on the road, Oregon on the road, and Penn State on the road. So we'll have to see.
Absolutely. Zach Browning with thehoosier.com. Make sure you're getting a subscription there. Their great coverage continues. Zach, thank you very much, brother.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
You betcha. That's going to wrap it up
From the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios, back tomorrow to do it again. Till then, I will see you on the radio.